Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Industry Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Matt Brower, and this episode's guest is helping people reclaim their own health and wellness through her practice, Options Naturopathic. After receiving her undergrad degree in biology, she achieved a doctorate degree in naturopathic medicine and naturopathy. As the founder and visionary of Options Naturopathic, Dr. Erin Holston Singh has spent the last 27 years changing and saving lives through bringing a mindfulness approach to health and disease. She is out to expand awareness through the co-creation of a 10 million member holistic ecosystem. And frankly, I'm excited to be a part of that mission by having you on this podcast. So thank you so much for accepting my invitation, Dr. Erin.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun, I think.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Erin and I met recently at an event in Omaha, Nebraska. A dear friend of both of us, Omani, had an event called the Heartland Gathering, where there was about 400 conscious leaders came together and just talked about ideas and mindfulness and everything, everyone's practices, meeting each other.
Yeah, it's really super special event and time to just get away and be where there is almost no connection with the outside world. I love that. We just don't hardly ever get that anymore because we're so connected all the time, 24/7 phones and Wi-Fi. And so you have to go to a special place on the branch to get a connection to the outside world. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. How long was this your first time attending that event? I know this
actually second time. My husband and I went last year as well.
Nice. I was going to go last year. I couldn't pull it off, but this year I finally made it. So pleasure to meet you there.
Yes.
It was actually quite inspiring for me because I was not aware that there were so many. Obviously, there's a lot of people around the world that are working on incredible things to move our world forward and how we operate as humans. But to have that many people of that level of influence and following coming together in one single event, I was blown away. Came back to Panama super inspired, oh my God, I want to have as many of these people as possible on this show, because this is the intent of this podcast, to be a platform for people that are working on moving our lives forward in a beautiful way to help expand and share the world, share the story, I should say. So
yeah, I was just thinking a lot about how everybody used to say the 6 degrees of separation and something to do with Kevin Bacon, whatever that was, and now it's really 1 degree of separation, because it's everywhere you go, there's always someone who's connected to someone else that who's in this, what we are, I guess, calling the consciousness space. But there's more and more and more and more people coming into the consciousness space. And I'm wondering, just sometimes, some people, to me, it seems as if they're living underneath a rock, or I'm in a bubble, but I feel like my bubble is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And soon the bubble is going to burst, and it's going to be everybody that's looking and thinking about things in a much more aware kind of way, that's not just looking at things through making the world better through a political avenue or a political lens, even though those things still need to exist.
Yeah. And I'm glad you touched on that, because this is the name of this show. I'm actually very soon going to be doing a name change and a little bit of a rebrand of this podcast. But right now it's called the Industry Alchemist. And the word industry is too 3D business for me. It was, I've had this podcast for about 3 years now. And I've really shifted who I have on this show very mindfully. And so I'm going to take that word out, and it's going to still have the energy of alchemy in it. But basically what modern day alchemy is, or what alchemy is in general, if you think about it, it's not taking some, the traditional definition of it. It's not like taking this metal water bottle and turning it to gold. If you think about what it actually is, it's coming up with an idea, a way of being, or an idea of any kind, and getting collective agreement to also agree with that idea. And then that's shifting the way we humans operate based on that idea, that like you are doing in the health and wellness space. And the more you can spread this idea of how this should work, here's this gold, this gold way of, seeing and interacting with our bodies and healing ourselves. The more people, that bubble burst that you're talking about, that's what the alchemy is. The more people that are in alignment and agree with that idea, that's the way medicine should work, not the way it's been working. That's alchemy, and that's a very big part of what you're up to. That is what you're up to.
Absolutely. So, I love the word alchemy, even if it does mean transmuting lead into gold, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Anything that gives credit, credence, awareness to the concept of how our consciousness is impacting the physical world. I just love that. I mean, that's really the realm that I've been probably playing in my whole life, even though I didn't really deeply know it, like really get it in the way that I have in the last few years. And I mean, I don't know. It's also fascinating to me as I've been reflecting on my own journey, how in just the past few years, like I have had a lot of change in my own awareness. Like, I think I was really living in like a fantasy even just a few years ago about what I could do and what I was capable of. And then my business grew a lot. And then I was like, okay, here I'm a doctor trying to run, a business that's too small to be big, but too big to be small. And, having a team and having to manage people. And it's like a whole nother reality set in of what I had to contend with. And I really didn't want to deal with it, so I was like in denial about it, and then, really struggling and whatnot. But I think it's become like this little microcosm metaphor for me of all of us business owners, all of us who are at the head of any organization, big or small, are trying to figure out how to alchemize the awarenesses and support our employees to bring prosperity for them. And it's not just about the service of the owner. It's about what are we doing in this world, and what are we trying to impact, and what are we trying to change, to transmute with some conscious awareness. And to me, the realm of medicine just has ignored the beauty and the input of nature for too long.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they ignored it. They've run away from it.
Suppressed it, denied, like Cartesian thing, right? Mind body separation, and then slowly tiptoeing back in with psychosomatic. And I'm always explaining to people, like, there's no soma without psyche, and no psyche without soma. Like, they are one thing.
So I love this. Like, let's dive deeper into that and your specific methodologies, because this is a very deep, passionate topic for me personally. I am very connected to how we heal our own bodies through movement and our mind. And it's a very big part of my coaching practice. And so I'm super eager to hear, like, talk high level and then as deep and detailed as you want to get. Describe for us how you work with your clients and your patients.
Yeah, it would be really, really fun, because we have changed and metamorphosed a lot over the last just even few years. After having been in practice for as long as I have, I had one particular employee who I'm going to name because she should hear a shout out from me now and again. Her name is Alyssa, and she's still with us, albeit part-time. And she was really kind of the key person of seeing how much I had to give, but how much I overwhelmed my patients, particularly the greener ones who were newer to this space.
Okay.
And then we got into working with cancer really in depth about 8, 9, 10 years ago now, because of the influence of another naturopathic doctor who her journey had been having had cancer herself. So that's Dr. Nasha Winters, who, many people know that I'm associated with, talk about a lot. But the work of taking what I was already doing in what we call like terrain medicine, meaning looking at the whole landscape of the body, internally, externally, how well can you eliminate, what are you taking in, like just this concept that we're not looking at things to beat back and treat the symptoms of, but in a more naturopathic, holistic, truly holistic way. You're looking at all of it, all of those influences. Having already been in that space and then starting to work with cancer patients, we just had so much to give people. It was like every single person we saw was drinking from the fire hose. And then we'd see a lot of people fall off. It was too overwhelming. They couldn't do it. So
what about it, really quick? What do you think? What about it was too overwhelming? The amount of things to do, or the belief that this is going to have an impact, or what do you think?
Well, I would say it's definitely different for every single person, but I would say that the biggest difference in this realm is that we acknowledge, recognize, and support that the patient themselves has to be accountable to themselves, whereas the system at large was largely predicated upon you're not really responsible for what happens to you. You know, like if I look at my dad, who was recently in the hospital, it's like he's yelling at the doctors all the time, like they're supposed to just fix him, you know. And it's like, wait a minute, you know, like how did you get to this position that you're in now, you know, at 84, where everything's falling apart? Like you have a role to play in that. And so what we're doing is, you know, very squarely trying to help people see where they have agency in their process, both on a mental and emotional and physical and historical and epigenetic and even an ancestral level. So, you know, what we've built now is an onboarding that ultimately we're going to make available to anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody who just has cancer diagnosis, because really everybody should be doing this degree of stepping in and understanding themselves and their process, wherein we're showing them how to go deep into the data, like the science and their blood work. And, you know, there's so many different types of assessments that one can do these days, you know, between what the science of the biohacking world, as we call it, and then, you know, alternative assessments, in addition to just an alternative or a more broad-based lens on conventional blood work, which is really the main thing that we here focus on a lot, because it's something that just about anybody has access to. We can get discounted labs, but we take a very broad-based approach of looking at a variety of blood work markers that then give you a really good idea through the patterns of what they're saying, that you can read into the microbiome and, you know, oxidative stress, inflammation, hormonal balance, all of the different, you know, blood sugar, all of the different pieces there, that we help people understand what they really want to be focusing on, what they really need to be focusing on, where they don't need to be over worried, maybe where they do need to pay more attention. But another big piece of it is that whole, what I call mind body piece. If we're not helping somebody understand how they're relating to themselves and how they make meaning in the world, then, you know, we may not be doing much of a service to help them know how to make any changes to their habits. So a big part of it comes in, like with our onboarding process with cancer patients, we have them write their life story and we give them some parameters about it. And some people take liberty to make it pretty long, and some people it's way too short. You know, it's a couple paragraphs, and the, you know, the variety of the two, but it's really, that's sort of the keystone appointment that Alyssa helped me create, is something called a genesis, where we
that's where it's pulling all the things together.
We're helping the person to really see, like, what was the genesis of why you would have cancer, or what's the genesis of why you are sick.
Wow, that is powerful.
So it's a lot about bringing to the surface that which we don't always want to look at.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. You know, say I'm really stressed out, or I have a lot of stress in my life. I'm always like, well, what is stress? Stress. You know, Hans Selye coined that term. People don't even know that the word stress came about in the 1950s. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
It's not even a very old word. Like, what did we call it before we said we were stressed out? What were we saying?
And created a pharmaceutical for it. Yeah.
Right.
when you look at it from that much broader lens, it's hilarious. All of this. It's like, how did we go down this path? I mean, we have our theories of how we went down this path, but it's wild what we've bought into as a as a collective?
I just think people want to reflect on what that means, because it doesn't really have any meaning anymore when people use that word. So I kind of don't let my patients use that word. I'm like, what does that mean when you say I'm really stressed out, or this was a period of stress? It's like, well, what was it that was stressful for you? Because it's different for everybody. So it's a part of me understanding the patient, but it's very more important for the patient to understand themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you really quick. You're spending you and your team are spending a lot of one-on-one time to get to the genesis. Do you have anything that they can, let's say, go to your website or something and just say, here's all the things that I need to be concerned, or that would help me understand myself deeper, that you kind of have like hey, at a minimum, here's what there is to do. And then if you feel called, come and reach out. Anything like that?
Well, interesting. I have two things that are really kind of core and somewhat unique to me, in the sense that it's a combination of working with the developmental aspects of an individual as well as the temperamental aspects of an individual. So developmental is going to be the same for all humans across the board, right? Where all humans are basically going through the same stages of development when it comes to your endocrine system, your nervous system, your physical development. And then everybody has their own individual way of responding and reacting to the journey through life. And we put those two pieces together with two different energetic therapy programs. And when I say energetic therapy, I'm technically really talking about homeopathy with the one program. And then the other program, the developmental reinforcement program, is similar to homeopathy, but the technology is a little bit different in that they're remedies that are made from glands, organ tissues, and nervous system components, but it's like holding the energy of what's getting developed at the different phases. So these two programs, one is called the Optimal Maturation Program. The other one's called the Mind Body Temperament Balancing Program. We recommend that people do them at the same time, and that you track what you're experiencing as you go through this. So one is lined up with phases of development that go from essentially conception through puberty, and there's 5 phases. The other one is a 90-day cycling through remedies that match your kind of emotional, temperamental presentation. So when you're doing these together, you're essentially flushing out anything that got disconnected, disrupted from a lack of consciousness or something that was too much traumatic, stressful during the developmental years. I mean, that could be anything from a loss of a grandparent to a surgery to any other kind of trauma to a day in and day out boundary violation because your parents didn't have good boundaries, or because there was abuse or anything like that, to what then is individualized from that particular person, and how can we support the person with the homeopathics of what they're really wrestling with. And you put those two things together, and it really can facilitate mood shifts, anxiety. There's just the mental health crisis with adolescents and teens, and the people that have grown up with smartphones and social media and all that. It's just really gotten to be kind of outrageous, but really a very powerful program to support self-awareness, which I think is, so fundamental to what is needed and what's been missing in medicine. So those are things that are available on you can read about both of them on our website. They're under healing programs, and they're both things that can be done even without seeing us. And I've got at least one testimonial on there of a young gal who, she'd been being seen by therapists and counselors because she kept thinking, if I leave my house and then there's a thunderstorm and then the weather gets bad and I can't get back home. I mean, it was really disruptive to her whole family. And she was seeing a behavioral counselor, and they could not get this to go away until she did this mind body program. So just really have no idea how something that historically people have thought didn't do anything because it was energetic. Homeopathy has been in the realm of alternative medicine because it's not pharmacologic. There's no, as they want to believe, there's no there because there's no substance. There's no physical, chemical, pharmaceutical, or botanical agent. It is the essence or the energy of whatever the medicine is originally made from. So that is something that's just now coming into broader and greater acceptance, even though homeopathy's been around for 250 years and has been used all over the globe. And for some reason, it doesn't go away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You just so beautifully articulated that and the difference between that. It's like the importance, the authentic transformational healing process of getting to the core wound that an individual is holding onto the emotion of, or that story of, that is then causing all of these physical ailments now in their life, or ways of being, or mental struggles. Thank you for that. That is such a difficult thing to put into words, and you just captured it perfectly.
I think people will, want to do something really profound and deep, like, have a psychedelic journey or something like that. But I like to talk to people about this. It's like slow motion. It's like slow motion psychedelics. It's like low. It's so low potency and low dose. It's energetic. It's like, it's stimulating for you and your vital force, your being, your consciousness to have a response. And it can't harm you because it's really only signaling for a response or a release, a reaction. Even the word reaction almost sounds too like aggressive.
Yeah.
But it's really been really fun to use it and then even see how they line up with what has happened in an individual's life. Like I remember one young woman who she had I can't remember what the exact event was, but something when she was like 6 years old, she had some kind of infection or something, and that they gave her a bunch of antibiotics for. And every time she would do the optimal maturation program and she'd get into phase 2, which lines up to the ages 0 to 7, she would have kidney pain. And it would be so severe that we actually would amend the program for her to just take it a shorter period of time for that phase. Right. Until eventually she was able to take it longer and longer. But, if you think about what's going on there, it's like it's bringing to the surface that which was suppressed. Yeah. And it's rebuilding and resynchronizing what's happening developmentally during that time. But it's very subtle because it's the energetic information. So have you heard of Rupert Sheldrake? No. So he's a biologist, English biologist who he's written several different books, and he has a theory that he calls morphic resonance, and he's morphogenetic fields, in that when you look at the science of genetics, there actually aren't enough genes to code for everything that the human body does. So of course there's the microbiome that's also coding for things, but he has this theory of the morphogenetic field, that it's really, there's a field that's informing also what's being created. And that just really makes so much sense, because if you think about like literally everything in existence, it's about relationship. It's about the relationship to self and other, earth and cosmos, from Mother Earth, Father Sky, like even all of our sense organs, right? They're all created in relationship to perception. To communication through the body or the voice, or in some way energetically. So just that, we have these ongoing relationships that are constantly shaping us. And, think about this idea of a field, and then even that there's a witness, right? Like the whole double slit experiment. Yeah. That things are impacted simply through being seen. Yeah. I think is the most fundamental and most important piece of it all, but especially in the healing space, right? Like like, what's the biggest complaint that people have about their doctors? That they don't listen. Like there's this statement for naturopathic doctors like 20 years ago was, a slogan, something like physicians who listen. And it's like,
oh my gosh,
even if you have a good physician who listens, there still needs to be a process wherein the person's developing a degree of self-awareness. And, what is healing? It's like, it's an eternal process of reconnecting to yourself through witnessing, through seeing, through experiencing.
Yeah, reconnect with your observer, creator self. Yeah. Wow. What I teach is everything that's happening in our physical body is tied to an emotion or a story that we're holding on to in our mind. Every disease, every injury, every tight muscle, even the good things, it's all a manifestation of our mind.
Yeah.
And when you can get to that core thing that happened that caused, that ailment or whatever it is to get created, that your mind then created as a truth, as a reality or a filter that now you're living through, that is authentic, life-changing, transformational healing at the core. And it's possible with every single ailment, I believe, that we encounter as humans.
Yeah. So that, Matt, reminds me to just share a little bit about what I have started just in the last couple of weeks calling track 1 and track 2, because that's what you're talking about is what I would call track 1. Like track 1 is always there. It's like the mind creating, the experiencing, the subconscious creating, maybe what isn't in our awareness, and the importance of being aware and bringing things into awareness. But then the track 2 can be all of the previously suppressed things that then created damage in the physical, as well as what we took in and what we're exposed to in the environment. And what's important for a cancer patient is to not outpace those tracks by adding on more burden of toxicity in track 2 before you can have a chance to repair what the mind is creating, because mind is creating.
Yeah. I want you to rephrase that, because you may have cut out a little bit there. You said after adding more toxic something. Can you say that again?
Toxic burden. So what I'm
toxic burden. Yes.
What I'm specifically talking about is that when people get a cancer diagnosis, they often go into like terror mode that, and the whole MO of the entire world's conventional medical approach is you have to hurry up and do this, that, and the other, when the person hasn't taken enough time to slow down to really even understand how severe is this cancer? Do I have metastasis? Do I have active circulating tumor cells? What's going on in my, what we call terrain, meaning how much inflammation, how much oxidative stress, how much is my circadian rhythm out of whack? Like, you can't heal a disconnected part of yourself if you're completely, deeply disconnected from yourself. Like, this is just representative of being disconnected. This, wherever these tumors show up in the body, it's like symbolic. The body is a symbolism machine, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, myth embodied.
Embodied, yeah.
The mythical stories we've ever come across, where we've embodied it, and it's a signaling system to pay attention. Yeah. So another just thing that I really want to speak to, I have no idea how long we've been talking, but I'm
watching the clock. I know you have to get to your next thing, and I'm being mindful of that. So
I'm good. I'm good at the moment, but I didn't know how far in we were. But one of the things that is really like fundamental and is key, I don't know if I mentioned that I have a book that I'm going to be submitting to a publisher here.
You haven't, so let's talk about that.
In the next month or so here, my editor and I are working on the proposal. So God willing, we will be submitting this right after the first of the year. But the book is called Source Medicine, and the notion is essentially, everything comes out of source, everything is consciousness and is coming through us, and everything is kind of acting out and enacted within source. But one of the most fundamental components and core theses in this book has to do with what we think of as the microbiome and what we think of as infection in the world, because to me the science of this hasn't been reconciled with the reality of it. So in holistic thinking, and particularly come a lot more clear to a lot of people since the pandemic, is that the terrain is what creates the germ. It's not germ versus terrain theory, as they say, germ theory, terrain theory. I don't know if these are phrases that are familiar to you.
A little, somewhat. Describe what terrain theory is?
So I think it might be easier for me to say first what germ theory is, but germ theory is like the idea that what makes you sick is contracting a virus, catching a cold, getting an infection from something or someone. And terrain theory is basically saying if you have a dirty, fish bowl, you're going to have a sick fish.
Yeah.
So that's, this idea of the working with the terrain is like you have to clean up the system, and then that's what is going to create health or lack therein. And even though that's kind of a, maybe generally understood concept, people still think that infectious disease is, it's a huge thing in medical schools and systems, and you have infectious disease doctors and specialists and that. And I'm certainly not saying that these different shapes of microorganisms do not exist, but what I do absolutely believe is they're created by the terrain.
The terrain,
To take it a little bit further in the realm of consciousness, and one of the points of the book that I hope to make clear to people is the microbiome isn't something that we have. It's what built us over millennia, and it's always been there. But it's the smallest forms of biology that are like the inner landscape. So like take the soil of Mother Earth and you involute it, and it's the interior of us that's mirroring and mimicking what the soil does with plants. It's like literally growing plants. It's building us. And when we reconnect to a part of ourselves and we get acutely ill, we're essentially discharging that old, held, unfelt, unexperienced, unseen, unwitnessed part of ourself that then is now being discharged. So why is that important? It's important because if you don't understand that, you're just going to keep microdosing death, killing yourself in little doses of antibiotics and antivirals and steroids and vaccines, when really it's a matter of this developmental process. So, then back to this optimal maturation program and the healing programs that essentially facilitate that for people. So I think, it wasn't exactly a nutshell, but those are really the key approaches that Options is putting out there for people to support them in the deep understanding of you can help to optimize your health by going deep into looking at who and what you are as it shows up in the field of your blood work, as well as in, your day in and day out thinking. And then like, what do you do when you get sick? Like longevity is, the result of the choices that are made.
Yeah. And my doctor, so eventually through podcasts and everything, I'm sure people will hear my story, but the long story, super short, is that as I grew up, I had the most allergies, environmental and food, and the most maybe not the most illness, but the most allergies to food and environment of any human that I've ever heard of before. And my doctor told me, this time I was like a young adult, maybe 20 or something. I remember her saying something like, I had it in my mind that there were things outside, germ theory or terrain theory, both, whatever, that I take in and it causes me to get sick. And what she said, I kind of reframed it. It hit me differently. And I reframed how I interact with all of this in that moment. She said, wow, your immune system is so overactive. And so the immune system, it's not that there are things that are bad and they're getting in me. Tell me what you think about this. It's not there are things that are bad out there and they're coming in and making me sick. It's that those things that exist that I'm breathing in or that are getting on me or whatever, my immune system is so overactivated trying to protect myself that's what causes me to feel the symptoms of sickness. And once I understood that, and through my own inward healing journey, the result of that, learning to get to the core of these overreactions of the immune system, the stories, beliefs, the traumas, that essentially is a direct correlation to the nervous system in the body calming down more and more and more, which then sickness occurs less and less and less. And that's how I think this is how I relate to all of this actually working together. That's been my experience. And now I literally have zero allergies to everything. I do get sick sometimes still, but it's quite rare. And so that what you're doing with your patients is, I have lived it. I'm sure I have not lived the depth that you bring to the table, but I'm super curious about that. But
there's, as they say, there's many ways to skin a cat, right? And I certainly don't want to have the only way, because you know what you went through was a process of like understanding yourself and self-awareness. But what I would say about what was likely going on was whatever it was that had created that scenario where your immune system was hyperreactive, it was likely created from practices, relationships that were violating your natural barriers to the outside world. So every person is a semi-permeable bit, you know, you have a semi-permeable barrier to the outside world. You have skin, you have your gut, you have your glands, you have your lymphatics, and you're taking in the world. But if, as I was saying earlier, if you have a day in and day out parenting system that is, you know, over invasive or, you know, perhaps even violating, right? Somebody who has violated a boundary, like the body takes that in as a symbolic violation. But then we put antibiotics and vaccines on top of that, which is
additional toxic items that you're talking about.
You're not even respecting the development of the immune system, because you know, the immunoglobulins, a baby can't make immunoglobulins. A baby has to get them from the breast milk. Well, here then we don't breastfeed, we take away the breast milk. So we're not giving the baby that beautiful barrier that's given through the milk to help the kind of like the fourth stage of pregnancy, that first trimester of life, when the gut is still in a very critical period of development where it's laying down, being able to adequately digest and take in the world in a way that's, you know, quite direct through the gut rather than just through the blood from the mother through the umbilical cord, right? So it's like this learning of the exterior world. And then by age 4 or close to that is when the liver can actually make immunoglobulins. But no, we're going to come along with our shots and we're going to force your immune system to make an immunoglobulin. But what we haven't considered is we're violating the natural order of how we introduce foreign proteins into the body, because we're going to give you an injection rather than letting it come in through a natural way. So it's so much the development. What needs to happen to every individual is to allow that development to occur. So when people have had multiple violations or deterioration of these natural barriers, that's why there is that overreactivity of the immune system, which, you know, is so ubiquitous in the population now. Like, how many people have patterns of what we call autoimmunity that either show as, you know, Hashimoto's, or, you know, even just increased cytokines in the blood that are associated with various inflammatory diseases. So we have to always look back at, like, what's the story, what's the history, and deeply understand that so that we can deconstruct and or rebuild who that person is. And that's really their identity. You know, as I just said to the patient I saw earlier today, like, your immune system is tantamount to your identity, who you are as a person.
The belief that you have of yourself.
So all that deep work in consciousness, like, you haven't done specifically the path that I would do, but having the work that you have done is absolutely something. Like, there's multiple ways to heal, because healing is really, heal comes from the word whole, meaning I'm making myself whole again by reconnecting to the part of myself that was disconnected from or too painful to experience.
So what would you say your biggest, because you're bringing something to the table that a lot of people, until they're ready for it and they want it and they're asking for it, can be really challenging to people's belief systems because the collective agreement around all of this is so different, and that's shifting quickly, which I'm really happy to see. But what would you say the biggest challenge is with new patients or people coming to check you out and what you're offering and that you have to overcome with people?
Well, I think it's dramatically different from every person who walks through the door. Most people who do, finally get here, they're really ready to do something different. But if we want to have success with somebody over the long term, we have to help support them to be comfortable with maybe looking at a part of themselves that they weren't previously comfortable with. I mean, if somebody doesn't want to make a change, they don't usually end up coming to work with us. But sometimes we get people where they want the results to be different, but they're not understanding how do they go about making those changes and
what
getting
it takes.
What it takes. And so I think it's a big part of how you help someone understand how and why they're making the conclusions that they make. So if you're not understanding what and why, what means what for a person, then how can you help them to think about it differently? If you don't know how they're making meaning out of something, then you can't really deconstruct how they're approaching what they're trying to do. And sometimes that's like, the absolutely biggest challenge. And, hopefully you can get to people before they're either in too much terror, too much fear, or even like a cognitive inability to make those changes. But, that's, I think, it's part of what makes natural medicine and holistic medicine, still kind of over here in the world, because the conventional model is just way too convenient because there's no accountability for the person. Like the system comes along and says, I got a surgery, I got a pill, I got a procedure that you can just do, and then you don't have to think about it. And I mean, even when it comes to hormones and hormone replacement therapy, my God, that's like a whole nother podcast to talk about that. But you think about what hormones are. Hormones are the signals that are the result of millennia of relationship with our environment. Sun and the moon and the stars and day and night and rhythm. And it's the dysrhythmia that really makes us sick. So we can come in and we can take our hormones and we can feel good, but it's not really looking at why we didn't feel good to begin with. They just turn out to be more drugs, but not everybody wants to do that. But then we have to be willing to understand there's going to be a consequence, even if we can't see what that consequence is today.
Right. Yeah. On my social media, I'll post little short videos talking about a topic, and very much it's about, a lot of them are about the energy level of our existence. And I got a response recently by a friend of mine whose wife is a doctor, medical doctor. And he just made a comment about, I love your posts. My wife doesn't really connect to the whole energy thing because she's a doctor, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's exactly the person that should get it because it's all based in science. And I just think it's so funny. So I'm loving hearing how you're talking about this, because how you are trained in, how you've been educated and trained in this while being able to articulate these very high level ethereal concepts that are all based in science, but somebody's mind isn't going to be able to grasp that until it's ready. It's beautiful. Everything that you're saying, I'm just like, yes. So
another piece that comes to mind is just when people want to say, well, even if you have this, sort of like Louise Hay association with why you have a pain in your left hip, it's still physiological because you still have to have nutrition and you still have to have collagen or creatine or whatever the latest, type of bone broth protein or whatever it is that you have to make in order to build your ligaments and whatnot. And it's like, yes, that's all true, but why out of the whole body would it be in that particular location, right? So we have to always be open to what is it that the body is trying to tell us with respect to why and where something shows up in the way that it does. I mean, and the same is true for, the various plant medicines. Is it that when one person takes, hape, that they have an impact in their stomach, and another person is going to feel it only in their throat? It's like people can make up ideas and say, well, it has to do with the substance and where it's like actually hitting my, nasogastric or my respiratory system. But then another person doesn't have that experience at all. It's like these things are holding consciousness, and they're
trying to tell us something. Yeah.
There's wisdom, and there's knowledge, and there's gnosis in these components. So you can't ever really separate them, even though it's really convenient to. And maybe it even served us for a long period of time, the way medicine and science moved things forward by chopping off our heads from our hearts.
Right. Yeah. And it has, because look at how much longer we are living now as humans. And I think just based on what I see, I think humanity is evolving beyond that now into this, because we're getting deeper connected to, with the help of neuroscientists and quantum physicists, the power of our minds, the intelligence of our body, moving away from the intelligence of sound and sound waves. So many people don't even realize so many of the tools that we use in Western medicine and hospitals and everything, it's sound wave. But they would never consider the power of a sound healing ceremony at a retreat. It's like, what? It's so funny. So I want to be mindful of your time, but I want you to talk really quick about what I said earlier when I introduced you. This basically, you're looking to co-create a new culture of healthcare with a long-term BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, which goes back to Entrepreneurs Organization, which I used to be involved in, so I knew that term, of, I quote, expanding awareness through the co-creation of a 10 million member holistic ecosystem. Can you talk really quickly about your vision there and how people that are listening to this podcast can reach out and partner with you? Who are you looking for, and how are you looking to partner with people?
Yes, thank you. So, well, the short, medium, long-term vision is essentially, we have my little operation here that's grown. I'm looking at stepping into working with groups with a process that I'm calling co-creative consciousness circles. And when I look at, having the book published and put out there to the world, it's like, I'm really wanting to teach concepts so that people can understand how to apply these ideas in their life. And then beyond that, I'm looking for, I'm using already relationships with all of my local healer friends. So, between sound bath facilitators or facilitators that I may have retreats with, to heartfulness meditation trainers, to any kind of craniosacral and, family constellation systems, and like all of these different friends, people, relationships that I've developed over the years. It's like, this is what I call the co-creatress. It's like people who understand through our conscious awareness, we are co-creating our reality. And what is health and healing is really through this process of bearing witness and bringing to our awareness that which hasn't been seen previously, but then now applying it to what science is showing us. So this idea of a gigantic membership organization is for us to be able to build a membership here ourselves, so that people have a place to come and have resource, but then supports us to have more of like a family healthcare system that then has partnerships with people who are healers, therapists of all ilks, and then even other organizations that are memberships, similar to what you guys are doing down there and elsewhere. So, the idea is to just keep creating this sort of sacred geometry network globally, where we're all supporting each other with the same understanding and conscious awareness about what health and disease really is and what it takes to be healthy, because we can't do it all by ourselves, but let's figure out how to like work together. So that's really the BHAG, right? Like, I know that's a big, hairy, audacious goal. I think the first time my husband saw that, he was like, what? And I'm like, come on, that's what a BHAG is, right? Like, it's supposed to be. So.
And it's possible.
It's possible.
It's not only possible, it's inevitable.
Right.
It's where humanity is going.
I see the world as really becoming indigenous again, like recognizing that we are all indigenous to Mother Earth, but then taking those indigenous principles and being able to work them into what we're doing in a way that we can live in harmony with our environment and our neighbors,
and all show up with our individual gifts and contribute to each other in the whole, and we all then get served simultaneously. Beautiful. Well, consider me a partner in that vision. And there's a lot more than just this podcast for us to talk about and how we can partner now having this conversation that I'm realizing. And so I'll definitely follow up with that. And then last question, this would not be a Industry Alchemist podcast episode without me ending with the question, what is your superpower?
Well, I would say a big part of my superpower is being able to hone right into helping somebody see that sort of hidden, or, what we might call like a delusional belief or a hidden belief of what's creating their illness. It's like I have a very keen ability to uncover that which someone is really not like looking at or paying attention to, or helping them find the meaning making of, like, why the left hip is hurting, or why the right eye is that. And I mean, that's just like the result of my own health journey of having to listen to my body and then learning how to help other people do that. It's really become my superpower, I would say. Incredible.
I love that you've dived deep into that work and serving in that way. I think that's the biggest goal in life for all of us, is to when you're just so aligned with your gifts and your purpose that you just can't wait to share it in the way that you are now and have been for 27 years plus. That's amazing. So it's fun. It has its challenges. Oh no, I can imagine. I'm human just like anybody else, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you again so much for your time. So much. This was an amazing conversation, and great to see you again. And I know there's a lot more coming for us. Sweet. I look forward to it. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day. You too. Bye-bye. Ciao.